Hello. Let's talk about governments renaming things so they seem better than they are. The Ministry of Peace prosecuted war. The Ministry of Plenty imposed starvation. The Ministry of Truth dictated lies. And the Ministry of Love carried out torture. While the UK government's online safety bill here promotes the most dangerous thing of all, the assassination of free speech. Oops, can I talk about assassination? It's not very safe, you know, to talk about such things. It might cause someone psychological harm, and that is not online safety. Okay, so the online safety bill is described by the British government, of course, as groundbreaking, and it's going to make the internet safer, according to the British government, especially when it comes to children's safety. The bill would make the UK the safest place in the world to be online. Just so you know, by placing new duties on social media companies, honouring our manifesto commitment. The bolstered, bill has been strengthened through debate with firmer protection for children, more control for adults. I think they meant more control of adults, but we'll let that pass for the moment, and clarify for social platforms. Online platforms will have to stop children from accessing content which has been deemed psychologically harmful. And that's not just pornography. What defines psychological harm to a child, you may ask? My younger brother, I remember, stayed up half the night crying when he was around 10 after he'd been frightened by a trip on the ghost train at the fair. You never know what could constitute psychological harm. And let's face it, online that could include, it could be deemed to include discussions about war, death, abortion, or even gender identity, or climate change, of course, global boiling, for instance. That terrifies children. Actually, now I come to think of it, that's a hopeful thought, isn't it? How about using the law, that very same law, to ban anything Extinction Rebellion puts out on the internet? Well, it's just a thought. At present, though, responsibility for identifying what is psychologically harmful to children has been turned over to the tech companies. It's not as if the government wants to take that sort of responsibility. That might be deemed oppressive, mightn't it? And I'm Granniopteryx, interrupting myself to remind you that I'm Granniopteryx. I'm on YouTube, Rumble, BitChute and Minds, also Twitter and Gab. All the links are in the description, including links to donation sites. I'm very grateful for donations, but I'm also very grateful if you'll just click that like button, which helps the distribution of this video and the growth of my channel. Right, I think that, oh yeah, please like, share and subscribe. If you're on YouTube, remember, click the bell button for notifications. Okay, back to the restrictions. Let's get back to the tech companies, and that would apply to companies like Rumble as much as YouTube, meaning that if they want to be accessed in the UK, those channels will have to stick to kittens playing with balls of wool and cookery. Hang on a minute. What if a kid hates a certain vegetable? What about psychological harm if someone was demonstrating how to make carrot cake, for instance? The end result is that anyone putting out content will have to treat everyone, from 1 to 100 as a child in sheer self-defense, unless they ask for age verification before whoever it is can access their internet account. And, well, how do you know that the verification of the account isn't being set up by an internet-savvy 12-year-old, which is, in my experience, about 90% of 12-year-olds? Okay, no problem. You just have age verification, don't you? Just give your, well, credit card details, perhaps, or your NHS number, or your gas bill, or your bank account, or whatever they need of your personal information to verify that you are the real McCoy. Well, they'll know you're the real McCoy, they'll know you're an adult, and they'll also have a lot of your personal details online as well. And of course, as we know, there are no slips with information online, are there? And if you're wondering why adults aren't being protected as well, after all, being safe is the end goal of human existence nowadays, isn't it? So there are also rules about tech companies removing content that's potentially harmful. Note they say potentially harmful. That is, they're not sure, but what the hell, let's ban it anyway. And they'll do that using algorithms. Anyone who's tried to post a comment under some of my videos will be aware of how well algorithms work. And what is potentially harmful? Well, they've defined that as disinformation, for instance. And yet, according to EFF, which is the Electronic Frontiers Foundation, and as far as I can make out, an American company, but of course, this applies to you guys in America as well. The bill would empower the UK government in certain situations to demand that online platforms use government-approved software to search through all users' photos, files, and messages, scanning for illegal content. Online services that don't comply can be subject to extreme penalties, including criminal penalties. Sounds nice, doesn't it? And to top it off, here's an article in the Telegraph which tells you all about that. The Telegraph. Loophole in online safety laws will let incels spread extremist views. That is, this online safety bill has a loophole. There are things that that are not yet in its provenance. Campaigners, extremists, fear that the government duty of care proposals will not stamp out misogynistic abuse from smaller websites. Extremists will be free to promote their misogynistic and violent incel ideology because of a loophole in the government's online safety plans, an investigation has found. You see, the point is, there never will be enough. There will always be a loophole. There will always be more law to make and more restrictions to impose. Unlike larger platforms such as Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, smaller sites with tens of thousands of visitors rather than millions will be largely out of scope, which means there will be no legal requirements to protect adults from harmful material, because of course we have to protect adults. What we have to do is make sure that adults are treated the same as children. So it looks like Parliament has more work to do, doesn't it? The rules aren't tough enough. By the way, free speech does get a look in. The platforms will be required to, quote, have regard to free speech. But when companies are faced with deciding on free speech or a whopping fine or even criminal prosecution for getting it wrong and putting out online harm, what do you think they're going to do? The result? A lot of overseas companies, especially US companies, will simply block UK access. And what will UK people do? Well, there are VPNs. And then we're back to square one, but worse, because then there's no control at all. Until, of course, they make it illegal to access VPNs, which they will do in the name, of course, of staying safe. And here is what they're doing in Russia in the name of staying safe. Russia to ban all VPNs, says a senator. Russia intends to prohibit VPNs being offered in the nation's app stores starting in 2024. A Tuesday report in local outlet RA quotes Senator Artem Shaykin as saying that Russia's telecoms regulator, Roskomnadzor, oh, doesn't that sound James Bondy, will block any VPNs that allow access to banned material. Well, where Russia leads, Britain follows. Okay, till next time. Why not treat yourself or a favoured relative or friend to these magnificent examples of merch? The mugs and t-shirts come in the granniopteryx design or Grambo with a firearm or the more deadly knitting needles. Go to www.granniopteryx.com and whatever platform you're watching this on, please click like, subscribe and share.